We're at the Independence Show 2022 version in person with Patty Boyers, Chairman of ACA.
Yes.
Patty, tell us why you go by that moniker.
Because they said when I was elected, I'm only the second woman to ever sit in the chairman of the board position. And I was preceded by Colleen Abdullah with, I am the second one. And so they asked me, you want to be called chairwoman? And I said, no, I want to be called chairman. And I said, what the heck? I want to be the chairman. So that's what I am, chairman.
Just like Frank Sinatra, you're doing it your way.
I'm doing it, and I always have done it my way, Ken. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, and the board is a pretty active board. Why don't you talk to that for a moment?
Well, this morning we had our annual board meeting, ACA. Grant Spellmeyer, our new president and CEO, spoke, and I think he was or is a little bit surprised by the level of participation for all the board members. Now we have a very diverse board, and the question you asked me was, is it very time consuming to be chairman? Yes, it is. I was vice chair for 5 years under Bob Gessner, Massillon, and now I'm chairman. But it takes an abundant amount of time. But I will tell you that this board we have has always come alongside. But each board member has a different personality, and they rise to the occasion at different times in their careers. There are times when you have board members that are not as active. They always participate, but they're not as active. And then a different season comes in their life, and they can contribute more, and they do. This is not a passive board that just meets 4 times a year and that's over. Everybody is deeply invested in the success of their businesses and the communities and the customers they serve.
Well, and it makes me think, too, a lot of the members here are involved in their local community, being on boards, whether it's Little League or council or whatever. And I thought what you said about seasons of, your life, right?
Absolutely. Everybody has an opportunity. I've been on the ACA board since 2003, so I'm ancient. I've been in the leadership since 2017, and I can tell you that I was very busy in those early years. I only served on a couple of extra committees during those years because I was in the driver's seat at my business in operations and the executive officer. And so I'm raising a son. Steve and I were raising a son, and Steve was busy. And so there was no time to take off and go to this meeting, that conference, and contribute. But as time passed and we were able to hire a CEO, I was able to get out of the tree business, get in the forest business, where I could contribute more. And I had a lot more experience also. When you've run a business for Boycom, celebrates its 30th year, also 1992. But we were in the construction business, underground cable construction, for 14 years before that. So I got cable in my blood.
Well, and speaking of construction business, today we heard from a speaker who got his start in the construction business, and his life turned a little bit different direction. But I have to ask you, 40 years ago or whenever, thought you would be speaking in front of Congress and having them listen?
Yeah, I have no idea. I had no idea. But I guess that's the best thing about this life, You never know what's around the next corner. And if you did, a lot of us might not go. We might not take that trip if we knew what was around the corner. But then there are the times whenever you hit the jackpot. But it just, it just seems like the harder you work, the luckier and the more successful you seem. There's a lot of hard work behind the scenes with Mike Schultz this morning, and that very inspiring, very impressive young man. And he took lemons and made lemonade.
Truly, it was amazing, and it's amazing to see how he's helping others with his leg.
Oh, absolutely. To be able to have engineered and developed and now produces those and sells them to others, that's near and dear to my heart when he started talking veterans, because my son's in active military, and there is a huge need for that, especially coming out of the Gulf Wars in Afghanistan. So what an opportunity. He didn't just wallow around in his own self-pity, stayed home and felt sorry for himself. He got out and reinvented himself, and then he invented a prosthesis that helps hundreds of thousands of people. what a glorious, it's bigger than him.
Yeah.
That was what he said this morning. He said, this whole thing is so much bigger than me.
Well, and that was one of the comments made from one of the speakers today about seeing the bigger picture, right? That this is bigger than just delivering bits and bytes, right?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. We're serving our communities. We're providing a much needed service. And if we didn't think that before, this pandemic proved us otherwise. We've all been working. We're sitting here in the exhibit hall at TIS with hundreds of vendors selling their wares, their programming, their gadgets, their all the different things for our industry. And for them, it's important, but for us, it's very important because we are able to go ahead and bring that on out to you. This is what builds our networks, physically builds our networks. We never want to see your network tried like it was tried during the pandemic. But we prevailed, Ken. That was the single one thing that we learned out of that pandemic. Rolling in when the president shut the country down for what should have been 2 weeks and it turned out 2 years, we learned that our networks were strong enough to handle the load. Our business, just ours, little old Southeast Missouri, the usage increased by 37% in 14 days when everybody went home. And we really didn't. Missouri never closed down officially, and our neck of the woods didn't close down officially either. I mean, hell, we social distance as a way of life in rural Missouri.
Right. You were still doing some pretty innovative things with your pull-to-ped, whatever it was called.
Yeah, we did. I mean, we did everything we could do. That we fed our people. Couldn't get a hold of any beef. We fed our folks. Wasn't that they couldn't buy it? You just couldn't buy it.
Yeah.
You could not go to the store and get it. Processing plants were shut down. So, I mean, we adapted, we overcame, and now we're on the back side of that. It is so wonderful to see the host of people that are here. It's normal. It's normal, Ken, and I like normal. Normal is good.
I was just about to say normal is good, and Patty, it's so great seeing you in person.
Thank you, Ken. I appreciate you and what you've meant to this industry all these years. I've seen you dragging that little camera around all over the place and telling our story. Thank you.
Thanks.